right. Well, thank you all for joining us today for today's coffee hour. I will do a quick introduction for Katlin Miller, who's our speaker today. She is the Middle Park Conservation District Manager, and she'll be sharing her experience working with the county offices of emergency management, specifically during the East Troublesome Fire from 2020. And giving insight and tips as to how conservation districts can collaborate with local officials before and after natural disasters and serving a really important role in the communities that way. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to Katlin, and feel free to drop questions or comments in the chat, and we could definitely get to those at the end of the presentation, or Katlin, if you want to answer them as you go, however that works out, we could definitely do that.
Okay, yeah, and if you see something that's like, we should maybe do it at the time, I might not see it in the chat right away, so if you can help let me know there's a question, that would also help.
Yes, I could absolutely do that.
Okay, so I just shared my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to do a little introduction in just a second, but again, we're just here to talk about integration of conservation districts into emergency response and recovery. I've got my information here on the screen. If after this, if anyone has any questions or comments or anything and just wants to chat, feel free to email or call me as well. So, oh, there we go. So a little bit about me. So again, I am the Middle Park Conservation District Manager. I will be going on 10 years in 2023. So I've been around for a bit. I am also a rancher. My family has a ranch here in Grand County, and that's kind of how I kind of got into that role as the district manager. Also a rural traveler. I love to travel. I've been now, I think we're on 38 countries so far, and I'm 36 years old. So I love to travel. This picture here was taken in Bora Bora. I went down there last year. So I'm also the Grand County Wildfire Council Programs Director or Programs Manager. I've been with the Wildfire Council since it started in 2015. And then a little bit of information about my experience on different incidents. I was the public information officer and the liaison officer for our county's COVID-19 response team. I was also an assistant PIO, which is public information officer on the East Troublesome Fire. And then afterwards, I was on the watershed recovery team for the East Troublesome Fire. So a little bit about me and why I'm here today. And as you know, we were discussing earlier, the East Troublesome Fire, that's kind of where the conservation district came in to help with an incident. So the East Troublesome Fire happened in 2020. It actually started in late October. So it's time of year that you don't normally think about massive fires blowing up. But it happened in late October, and it ended up burning over 193,000 acres. I believe right now it sits at I think it's the second largest in the state of Colorado in US history, or in Colorado history. And it destroyed around 600 structures, nearly 400 homes. During the fire, I assisted in the Emergency Operations Center with public information. And then I also assisted with the ESF 11 and the ESF 11 functions, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And then afterwards, post-fire, I assisted with the watershed recovery, which is RSF 11, so the recovery support functions, 6, RSF 6. So we, the Conservation District was really active in the Emergency Watershed Protection Program, EWP. So EWP is a program that's run through the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, and it is there to do emergency watershed protection. So to mitigate the risk to life and property caused by natural disasters and the effects of the post-fire flooding, sedimentation, and debris flows. So with the EWP program, we worked with Northern Water and Grand County. They were sponsors of the program. And through that program, NRCS, we were able to get around $30 million worth of work on private lands and even some federal lands that were impacted by the East Troublesome Fire in Grand County. A lot of the projects that we were able to do were flood mitigation, as well as doing some ditch work and trying to enhance the ability of different ditches and canals to be able to manage the floodwaters and the debris flows that would come down. Also, a lot of mitigation along highways and roadways that were going to be affected by debris flows as well. In addition, we did a lot of seeding and aerial mulching through the program as well. And again, that's all called Emergency Watershed Protection Program. It's through NRCS. And then the Conservation District also worked with our local community foundation and Northern Water to distribute seed to landowners impacted by the fire. We were able to put out around, oops, let me plug in my computer. We were able to put about 41,000 pounds of seed down, which was valued at $150,000 to assist, again, the landowners that were impacted by the East Troublesome Fire. So we did a lot of work. Again, the East Troublesome Fire happened in 2020. The work is still happening today, and unfortunately, we are still, dealing with post-fire mudslides. This summer we had a lot of mudslides because again, that soil is not stabilized anymore, and once it floods once, it's more prone to keep flooding and having those debris flows. And so we are still feeling the impacts, and will likely feel those impacts for some years to go. So just a little reference, the pictures on the left in the upper left corner, this is actually a picture of the East Troublesome Fire from my house, my doorstep. So we were very close. My family's ranch did not get hit, but you can see the property line is the river right here. This is Colorado River, and it was literally just over the hills from there. So my family was very close, but not officially impacted by the fire. And then this picture down here is just a picture of how after the fire, the fire week came in, and it is definitely re-vegging, which is great. A lot of this is also thanks to the seeding, but there is a lot of natural re-veg going on as well. So yeah, that's the East Troublesome Fire. And then why are we here today? I don't know if there's any questions so far. No, it doesn't look like it. And so why are we here today? We are here because when emergencies occur, it's really important to have the right people and the right resources that can make all the difference in response and recovery success. Conservation districts and district employees have a lot to offer and can be that key to success as well. So we are here today just to chat about how conservation districts can better integrate into emergency response and recovery. Oops, sorry. There we go. So first, before we kind of get too much into how that works, I wanted to introduce a few terms and programs that are kind of the foundation of emergency response. So NIMS is the National Incident Management System. And this is the cohesive approach that guides all levels of government, non-governmental organizations, and private sector to work together to prevent, protect against, mitigate, respond to, and recover from incidents, regardless of cause, size, location, and complexity. it provides a shared vocabulary, systems, and processes that guide how personnel work together during incidents. And so this is a national system that almost all incidents kind of work by. Again, it provides that cohesive effort and the shared kind of vocabulary, systems, and processes. And so whether you are working on an incident in Colorado, or you're working on an incident in Washington or in Florida, if you are familiar with the NIMS system, which again, most emergencies kind of operate by, then you can easily just go to those other locations and work with people that you've never met before and be able to work the incident efficiently, effectively, and successfully. And this is kind of the national-wide system that's taught, and it really helps you be able to go anywhere and work on a system. So the NIMS system includes the Incident Command System, ICS, Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, and then MAP groups, the multi-agency coordination groups. So those are kind of aspects of the NIMS that, again, when you learn that and you go to it, then you are able to better just be able to jump in and assist where needed. The other kind of terminology is the National Response Framework, NRF. So this describes the specific authorities and best practices for managing incidents. It really emphasizes the unity of effort between the government and private sector through better coordination and collaboration. And the guiding principles on this one are engaged partnership, tiered response, scalability, flexibility, and adaptable operational capabilities, unity of effort through unified command, and readiness to act. So again, this is a national framework. Most incidents, again, kind of work under this framework. And again, allows you to be able to learn this, know it, and then go to an incident, no matter where it's at or how complex it is, and be able to work together and understand what to do. On this one, I've kind of highlighted the two things where conservation districts can jump in and help, which is the engaged partnership and the readiness to act. And we are going to discuss both of those here. So the first thing is the engaged partnerships. So I think all of us kind of understand the need for partnerships just in general with our own work in conservation districts. I know here in Middle Park, we have lots of partnerships, and I'm sure other conservation districts are the same as well. So partnerships are vital to incidents. The layered, mutually supportive capabilities at all levels allow for coordinated planning in times of calm and effective response in times of crisis. And so what this is kind of really emphasizing is that it's really vital to create your partnerships when it's calm, so that everyone knows who everyone else is and who can do what and what kind of resources you can bring to an incident when it's calm, so that when the times of crisis happen, they're ready to call and you're ready to act. So that's kind of the main key point here. And then engaged partnerships and coalition building include ongoing clear, consistent, accessible, and culturally appropriate communication. So again, that's just where you're building those partnerships, you are continuing to maintain those partnerships and have clear, consistent communication about what's going on, who can do what, and how to get ready to act when an incident occurs. Individuals and communities, the private sector, NGOs, and all levels of government should each understand their respective roles and responsibilities and how to complement each other in achieving shared goals. So again, that kind of comes down to whether it's you as the conservation district or you as an individual or you as a community, understanding what your role is when incidents occur or when recovery occurs, and also relaying that back to others in the community as well. So when incidents occur, everyone's got a place in that incident and or the partnership, and understanding what that is and being willing to step up and act is really important. And that kind of leads to the next thing. All elements of the whole community play roles in developing the core capabilities needed to respond to incidents. So again, just everyone's got a place, whether you understand it right now or not, where your place is, everyone's got a place that they can act if you wish to, and understanding that. Because again, when incidents occur, it happens fast, and you kind of just have to be ready to know where you are and what you can do and act on that. So that's where a lot of the pre-planning is really important, and relaying that out to the others in the community. So then the next one is the emergency support functions. And so emergency support functions are, again, something that is developed under is someone asking a question? No. Okay. It's emergency support functions, ESFs, are under the National Response Framework, and so they are part of that national system again. They, along with the recovery support functions, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Maybe if everyone could turn their speakers off, and then we can, okay. So emergency support functions and recovery support functions provide the structure for coordinating interagency support to deliver core capabilities that stabilize community lifelines and assist in post-incident recovery. So these are kind of, again, the standard support functions for incidents that can help the Emergency Operations Center when an incident is occurring and get the incident the support it needs as quickly and efficiently as possible. So there's about 15 different emergency support functions and 6 different recovery support functions. The ones that conservation districts are most likely to be involved with are the ESF 11, so that's agriculture and natural resources, as well as the recovery support function, natural and cultural resources. So these, again, are terms that may be unfamiliar to you, but within incidents, they are very common terms. And if you do take some trainings I'll discuss a little bit later, you'll learn more about them. But these emergency support function and the recovery support functions can be crucial, especially in natural disaster incidents, to get the people the help they need during the incident and after the incident. So, for example, in the East Troublesome Fire, I was acting in the public information shop, the PAO shop. And so I was the call center manager, and I also developed the post-fire recovery workbook or guide that we put out to our people. But I also assisted with ESF 11. So during the incident, we had several ranchers in the area and individuals in the area that had livestock that needed help getting their livestock out. And so our ESF 11 lead was our CSU extension agent. So she took the lead on that. However, she's kind of new to the area, or not necessarily new to the area, but new to the position. And she didn't have a lot of the contacts for the local ranchers that I did. And so she asked me to help her with providing information and contacts to the potential ranchers that were impacted by the fire, to help get them the information they needed and get them the assistance for evacuating their livestock and all of that out. So even though I was not the lead on that, as a conservation district, I had a lot of that information and assistance to be able to help her as the lead in the ESF 11 functions. So that again was something that was actively during the incident, and this happened, this the ESF functions, they initiate during the incident. So it's again something where something blows up and you kind of have to be ready to act to assist in that time. Then moving on to the recovery side, after the incident is over and you're starting to look at recovery, that's where the RSF positions come in. So the recovery support functions. And that's where the natural and cultural resources came in. And we were assisting with the watershed recovery. And I've got some more slides here on that. I just remembered. So the ESF 11, again, that's the agriculture and natural resources. So the ESF 11 coordinates a variety of functions designed to protect the nation's food supply, response to pest and disease, impacting agriculture, and protect natural and cultural resources. So some of the aspects of this could include the nutrition assistance, agriculture and disease response, technical expertise, coordination and support of animal and agriculture emergency management, the meat, poultry, and processed egg defense and safety is something, and then the natural and cultural resources and historic property protection are all aspects of that. So again, the conservation district may not be involved in all of these, but could definitely be involved, in the animal and agriculture emergency management assistance and the natural and cultural resources protection as well. So those are aspects where the conservation district could definitely be involved. RSF, the recovery support functions. Again, RSF 6 is the natural and cultural resources, and that is responsible for identifying, assessing, and providing resources to support the recovery of natural and cultural resources in the impacted area. So that includes water and watersheds, environmental compliance, historic preservation, land management, and habitat. And if you have tribal lands in your area as well, it could include that. So again, that's where after the fire, the East Troublesome Fire, again, it burned 193,000 acres. We had a lot of land that it was impacted, and also the East Troublesome Fire area. The area that it burned is also the source water for Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District. And so individuals that live in Northern Colorado on the east slope, again, Larimer County, kind of Weld County going out east, those are in the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District. The source water for those individuals comes from Grand County, and we are that source water. It comes into Lake Granby, the Grand Lake Adams Tunnel over to the east side. And so, we have a lot of watershed that we wanted to protect, and source water we wanted to protect for those millions of people over in Northern Colorado East Slope that rely on our water. So again, that's where conservation districts can step in and assist. You don't necessarily, on either one of these, whether it's the ESF during the incident or the RSF after the incident, conservation districts don't necessarily need to be the lead on that. I'm not asking that at all, or the sponsor necessarily, if it does come down to, the EWP programs and things like that. But the connections that we as conservation districts have, and also our connections to NRCS and our district employees, our conservation techs, things like that are critical aspects that we can assist in these functions during the emergency and after the emergency. For example, again, like I said, during the incident, we had contacts to a lot of ranchers that the others did not have. After the incident, when we were looking at trying to figure out which lands were most impacted and which lands had, these areas that may need assistance, like, for example, ditches and culverts that might be impacted, we as the conservation district, just because of our the work that we've done and the connections we've made with the agriculture community, we already were a step ahead of a lot of these sponsors and the leads in these functions by knowing who to contact, knowing the potential areas that were most at risk and would most need the help. And so just by the innate work that we do, we knew a lot of critical information that we're able to share and better assist the support functions with, and make things happen more efficiently and effectively, as well. So I guess the main thing, and I'll say this a couple of times, is we don't want to sell ourselves short. We as conservation districts, we we have a lot to offer, and we know a lot, and being able to provide that to these incidents is valuable. So so that brings me to, what can conservation districts do? You know, a lot of this starts with the Office of Emergency Management and your local county's office of, they call it OEM, Office of Emergency Management. One thing I have found is, and it may not be the same in all counties. Again, I'm speaking from my personal experience here in Grand and Summit counties, but I have found that, here at least, if a lot of people didn't know the conservation district existed, or what we had to offer, or what we could do. And so what I would suggest is, contact your Office of Emergency Management and let them know that the conservation district exists and is here to help. A lot of times OEMs and response agencies are kind of tuned into the first responders, as you would say. They know about the fire and EMS, they know about the sheriff and the police, they even know about the county's human services department, public health department, some of those departments that you readily think about being kind of the first responders, or the initial response to life safety. Those agencies are going to come in and help right away, get people safe. Red Cross, those kind of things. They think about that and they know about that, but they don't often think about or know about the entities in the county that may assist with watershed protection and natural resources protection, which again, may not be the most urgent thing right away when you're trying to get people safe and protect life and property right away. But as I discussed here, the aftermath of the natural disaster, such as a fire or a flood, natural resource conservation and recovery is critical. And especially after fires and things, if you don't kind of get that land stabilized, get seed on the ground, take actions for erosion control, then you're potentially setting yourself up for many disasters thereafter. And there'd be many disasters, but flooding and debris flows can create their own natural disaster after the fire. And so it is important to think about watershed recovery and natural disaster recovery, even though, again, a lot of times the Office of Emergency Management and the emergency manager isn't thinking about that right away, because that's not necessarily top on their mind. That's why it's critical that we as conservation districts let them know that we exist and that we are here to help. Tell them what resources you can provide. And the reason I have resources bolded and underlined is emergency managers and emergency operations centers and EOC, during an incident and during the recovery phase, they are also all about resource management and trying to figure out what resources they need and where those resources are coming from and what those resources will do. And so it's all about a resource. And when you're talking about emergencies and incidences, a resource could be a person, it could be a thing, it could be, a fire truck, it could be, whatever. There's many different things, but they're all called resources. And that's the reason I say resource, because when you go talk to the Office of Emergency Management, they think in that way, and they think in those terms. And so when you are putting out to the Office of Emergency Management, what you can do, you want to talk in terms that they understand, and they understand resources. So some examples of some resources that conservation districts can provide is that expertise in natural resources management, conservation, and recovery. So again, whether it's the district manager, or if it's the district conservation tech, or even if it's just the connection to the NRCS lead in the area, it's that connection to your district conservationist. We have that, whether it's through the actual conservation district or through our NRCS partners. Again, we've got those contacts to the local producers. We can assist with those ESF and RSF functions, again, 11 and 6. Also public information assistance. So, conservation districts, we've got our contacts and we've got our connections. Many of us have our websites, we've got our social media pages. So we've got ways to get public information out to the public. And then you can think of other things that you as your district can provide that maybe isn't listed here, that's something that you specifically have either expertise in, or you've got resources for, anything that you can provide to the incident and to the emergency manager when an incident occurs. So just think about that. And then also chat with your Office of Emergency Management about potentially joining their MAC group. So the MAC group is the multi-agency coordination group. And so when an incident is occurring, the MAC group is going to be your agency lead. So like, for example, if it's occurring near a town, but your MAC group will probably consist of the town mayor or the town manager, potentially the county manager, other agencies that may be involved. You might have representatives from, well, the fire people will actually be on the fire itself, but you could have these other entities. You could have maybe the YMCA, if it's near the YMCA, so you've got these different agency personnel. If it's even involving a school, you might have the school, the superintendent in that room. You might have the Department of Public Affairs person in there. So it's a multi-agency coordination group. So they're kind of making those higher level decisions and guiding how resources may be allocated, and where priorities in resource allocation may happen. So when an actual incident gets involved, you get this MAC group kind of making those higher level decisions. However, on an everyday kind of situation, the OEM has this MAC group that they can call upon and have meetings and be able to discuss quarterly kind of emergency planning situations and things like that. So that's where the conservation district can get involved and kind of have a say, and be able to, again, get their foot in the door and say, this is what we can offer. These are the things that we do and why we're here. So just getting your name known within that MAC group, the multi-agency coordination group as well. Other ways you can help during an incident. So, whether maybe, this could be any kind of incident. Maybe it's not necessarily a natural disaster, but there's a crucial, vital role in incidents are public information officers, or PIOs. PIOs are responsible for getting the right information to the right people at the right time. And that's the critical pieces right there. They may take inquiries from the media, the public, and elected officials. They will put out different external products with public information and warnings. They monitor rumor mills. They have direct relations with the media and digital communications, and then putting out the actual products for whether it's a press release, whether it's social media posts, whether it's holding a news conference, and then also transmitting relevant information back to the incident, to the EOC, which is the Emergency Operation Center, and that MAC group. So this is something where, conservation districts, we are small, right? We don't have a lot of personnel, but part of the roles of conservation districts is we get information out to the public, often related to more agricultural things. But even though we may not call ourselves public information officers, we all are, just by the nature of conservation districts and getting information out to the public. And so if that's something that you enjoy doing and you like communicating, you like being part of that system that gets information out, becoming a public information officer and taking some of those initial classes and getting certified to be able to do that could be a way that you can assist on incidents that don't involve natural resources, and helping an incident. I mean, again, this is kind of, again, thinking about how you can put yourself out there to help, even if it's not necessarily in your everyday job. And so if that's something that you're interested in, I would definitely encourage you to look at becoming a PIO so that you can jump in and help. Again, when incidents occur, things happen quickly. Everyone's got their place. And if you have those qualifications and you have that desire and those skills, being another person that they can call upon to help them is important. Oftentimes in bigger incidents, you've got 7 or 8 PIOs that are helping the incident, and everyone kind of has their own role. You might have one that's responsible for social media. You might have one that is responsible for monitoring social media for rumors. You might have the call center manager. You might have the one that's doing the press releases, one who's in front of the camera doing the news releases. And so it really takes an army to get the public information out there during incidents. And that's where you could potentially play a role. I mean, again, we all, just as conservation districts and managers, getting information out is something that we normally do. So you're kind of already a step ahead in potentially taking on one of those roles. So if that's something you enjoy doing, I would encourage you to look into that as well. So the next steps. So what do you want to do? So what I would suggest is making those connections with the County Office of Emergency Management, the Board of County Commissioners, the Sheriff, the county's Department of Natural Resources, if they have a Department of Natural Resources, CSU Extension, and others. So, some of you may already have those connections. You may already be tied into the county commissioners, but you may not have connections with the OEM or the sheriff. Again, sometimes even though, you're close with the county commissioners and they know what the conservation district does, and you may make, annual reports to them saying, this is what we do. You may ask them for money to help support the conservation district, but they may not have that thought and that tie to where you can help in with an incident and an emergency. And so again, making that connection and tying that together is important. And again, that kind of goes back to the Office of Emergency Management and even the sheriff, again, letting the sheriff know, hey, if you've got an incident where you've got animals that need to be evacuated and you don't know who to call us. We may have that. We may know who that rancher is. We may know, who runs cattle up in that area of, the forest or what have you. I mean, again, we've got those connections, and I would encourage you to make those connections with those people. Again, a lot of us are already tied in with our CSU extension offices, but one thing you may not think about, again, is that the extension office and or the county natural resources, they may be the leads on that ESF function 11 or the RSF 6. They may be that lead person. And again, reminding them, you're the lead, but I can help you. So again, they may understand that you're involved with them, but they may not, again, make that connection that you can help during the incident, which when the incident is occurring, things are happening so fast, they're not necessarily thinking about all that can help unless you've already made that connection and said, hey, call me when you have it. Make sure I'm on your list of people that you can call to help you. Again, just reminding them that you're here to help. And then I had mentioned, there's different trainings you can take. So, there's these basic emergency response trainings through FEMA that you can take to familiarize yourself with NIMS and NRAT. So these FEMA classes are independent study classes. They are free through FEMA. So some examples of them are IS or ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800. These are, these independent study courses are just a few hours long. They're all online. It's all virtual. You just you watch some videos, you learn, and then you take a fairly short and simple final exam at the end, and then you get your certification for being signed off on any one of these classes. This 100, 700, 100, 200, 700, and 800, they are the most basic and kind of the standard minimal classes that anyone who really wants to work on an incident should probably take. Again, they will introduce you to some of those the vocabulary and the way incidents run. So you'll learn about, the incident command structure and the different roles there are in the incident, including the incident commander, the IC, that's the head guy. Then you have the PIO under him. You've got the liaison officer. You have a safety officer. Then you have a plan section. You've got all these different. You've got operations. You've got a very kind of, I don't want to say rigid structure, because ICS and NIMS is all about adaptability and being able to scale up or scale down. But it introduces you to some of those systems. It introduces some of the language. So again, I spoke about PIOs. There's different language within incidents that it will introduce you to. So should you decide or want to get involved with an incident and assist there, you'll kind of understand how incidents work, and it won't be as new to you as it may be. And again, because most incidents work under this national system, whether you do it in your county or you go to a different county or a different state, you'll know the language and you'll know what's going on there. And then also other FEMA classes. And so there's other, independent study classes that you can take. Again, the independent studies are virtual, they're online, they're only a few hours long, and they're free. So there's livestock and disasters, there's animals and disasters. If you want to go again more into the public information side, you can take a PIO class. There's a lot of free independent study classes on FEMA, and I have some links here in a minute as well. But there's also many, many others. And then if you desire to get trained a little bit more, you can take other higher level classes like ICS 300 and 400. That's looking at getting more into the incident and the incident management. There's other PIO classes. You can take lots of PIO classes. There's even independent study classes on social media in emergencies and how to work your communications with emergencies. And so a lot of these are free, and you do them from your own computer. And so I definitely recommend if you have any inkling of wanting to be involved in incidents or being able to help at all, even with recovery, familiarize yourself with some of these basic emergency incident trainings. So
I'll get him and hand him my phone. Okay, thanks.
So I'm gonna I'm gonna send the PDF of this, and these will be live links that you can click on to learn more. And so, this link here is about NIMS and learning more about National Incident Management System, and then NRF, and then also these two. This one is specifically about the Natural and Cultural Resources recovery support function, so you can learn more about what that job does. And then also the ESF 11, the Agriculture and Natural Resources support function. And so that can kind of help you guys learn more about what those support functions do and how you might help with that. And then this last one is the emergency management incident ICS classes. And so you can go there and you can take those independent study classes, or you can learn about the different classes you could take, just to, again, familiarize yourself a little bit more about emergencies and incidents. So again, my biggest takeaways from this, again, this is my personal experience, so I can't necessarily say, blanket to everything, but what I've learned is that conservation districts have a lot to offer. Emergency managers don't often know that we exist or what we can do or what we have to offer. And it's really up to us to make ourselves and our services known. It's not that the emergency managers don't want the services that we have, but they just don't even know they exist. And so it's really up to us to put ourselves out there if you want to. They're not necessarily going to come to you. You got to let them know that you exist. So those are my biggest takeaways. And I'm happy to answer questions. So it looks like Marissa's got her hand raised.
Hey, great presentation. And I just wanted to say, as a conservation district, we've put this into our long range plan, these relationships with these entities, so that we know that we're striving to make these relationships happen. And so if people haven't done that, that might be something that they want to consider.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure. Because I have found that we are a huge benefit in emergencies. And like I say, whether it's a natural resources related natural disaster one, or if it's just, again, you assisting on others, it really is helpful. So I'm glad to hear that you guys have done that. It's awesome. Any other questions or comments? Callie.
Good morning. Just as a suggestion, for instance, I have our county emergency manager sitting here with us watching this.
Oh.
I would encourage districts to take this PowerPoint and go sit down and visit with them. I mean, literally could go do that. So no, and honestly, we have a pretty good relationship. Eddie comes to most of our staff meetings. As the emergency manager, he's also the natural resource manager for the county, but take them and this to them. I think you did a really nice job. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, Kelly, I hate to put him on the spot, but do you, as emergency manager, do you agree kind of with the value of the conservation districts? And do you agree that other emergency managers may not know about the services we as conservation districts have to offer?
Okay, I'm taking off of mute.
Yeah. I do actually completely agree with this. And it was actually very informational for me to sit here with Callie and kind of talk about where those resources come from and how we can coordinate that during and after and even before an emergency. Because emergency managers, we really like to be planned out before an emergency, because that helps us out the most. Like your slide said, staying calm during an emergency is when you have a good plan. So I completely agree with this. And I think it would be a great idea for everybody to take these slides and sit down with their local emergency manager and kind of explain where those resources come from. Because if we don't know where how those resources come from or how to get them, then we don't know that we can even order those resources. So
Exactly. And I can say, for my county, so how I kind of got involved, just so everyone knows, again, like I said, that I've been on the Grand County Wildfire Council since 2015. And so I was kind of already involved, and I knew my community, I knew the fire department. And so when COVID happened, our county immediately asked our fire chief to be the incident commander of the COVID incident. So he got his PIO to be the lead PIO. So she immediately started calling and asking for people to help her. And so she knew me, she knew my skills. So she asked me to be an assistant PIO for our COVID team. And then I became a liaison officer as well for the COVID team. So that's how I kind of got involved. And then when the East Troublesome Fire hit, they knew my skills from COVID. So they immediately called me again to help with the East Troublesome Fire. And so it really was about those connections outside of incidents that got me involved, and that's how they became aware of the conservation district. If I kind of put myself out there, they wouldn't have known. But because I put myself out there, that's how they knew, and they made those connections and got it. And so again, and they say this, like, PIOs, like 95% of your time is making those connections outside of the incident, 5% the actual incident itself. And so again, that's where doing those things during the calm, making yourself known, making those connections will help when the incident occurs. And that's where it really matters, right? And so great. So I had some other hands raised. I don't know how I see who those are.
I can help with that. We'll go ahead and stop sharing your screen. I can help with that, Caitlin, but then Garrett had a question. If you want to go ahead, Garrett.
Hi, thank you, Caitlin. I'm wondering if you or anybody else on the call knows any specific guides or resources about seeding and erosion control and, post-fire stabilization, since that's especially an arena that conservation districts would probably be closely connected to.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to share my screen again, and I will just I'll pull up. So I have let me escape out of here. Hold on, let me escape. Okay, so after the East Troublesome Fire, and you guys are welcome to look at this page, the conservation district, again, one of the things that we did was we created a resource page for people after the East Troublesome Fire. And so you're welcome to look at this. We have a lot of, things here, but also then just general fire recovery links. And so we've got links to all of these different things on here. As far as soil erosion, we've got links to CSU extension. We've got links to the NRCS erosion control techniques and supplies. So we've got links to all different kinds of post-fire recovery. And I'll put this in the chat. But I would suggest looking at some of these links here. And there's also, after the flames resources. So there's a lot of stuff here. So I will put that in the chat. So I would go there. And then from there, you can see all the different options. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Excellent. And it looks like we have a question from Emily as well.
Can y'all hear me all right?
Yes.
Cool. Does anybody on the call have any experience? We have these wildfire collaborative groups starting up around our district. Seems like there's lots of Forest Service, BLM, local fire, those sort of people involved, and some big grant money through the wildfire ready watersheds. Caitlin, do you have any experience with that and how these groups come together?
So, I don't like a lot. I will say I do know that through our EWP program, Chris Sturm and the Colorado Water Conservation Board have been talking about, wildfire ready watersheds, and I know that's a program that CWCB is developing. I don't have a lot of information, maybe others do, but again, that's also just in general, that's another thing where if there are watershed groups or other kind of nonprofit groups that are doing work, that would be something, again, emergency managers may not, again, know about these entities and what they can offer. So if the conservation district is kind of tied in with them or likes them, I know at least where I am, there's some contentious issues between some of the, watershed groups up here. But if those are ones that emergency management should know about, that those are other entities that I would consider suggesting they get in contact with OEM as well, just to say this is what we can offer as well. So I don't have a lot of information to answer your actual question. I don't know if anyone else on the call does. Kayla or, Garth, I don't know if either of you guys know more about that.
I'll drop the link. I've gone to a couple, and Chris did give a presentation at them. I'll drop the link for this wildfire ready watershed. It sounds like they're going to put out a framework and that there's a lot of grant money there that I think this has been helpful in figuring out kind of where conservation districts would come into all of that.
Yeah, and I will also say, that's another thing, and I will also send the report out to Kayla and Garth too. So after the East Troublesome Fire, again, Northern Water and Grand County were the sponsors on the EWP. Also, with the Cameron Peak Fire over on in the Larimer County area, they were also working on it, and so we developed this post incident kind of wildfire recovery group, and we've been meeting, and we will be having a report come out at the end of the year, so probably late December, about our suggestions on how to improve watershed recovery processes in the state post disaster. And part of our group, we've had individuals from the Colorado Congress, like the senators' offices on these, and so this report will actually be going to the state Senate and the state House. That they're going to be going to that report is going to be kind of going statewide and potentially even up to national as well. So I will make sure that report gets out to CSCB as well, because it's going to suggest ways that we could have improved, including ways conservation districts can be involved. And Chris Sturm has been involved in those conversations as well. So yeah. Vanessa, looks like you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to reply in response to Emily's question. Thanks for putting that link in the chat. I hadn't actually seen that before. Looks like it's through the Colorado Water Conservation Board. And I'll just say, I'm in Longmont, so Northern Front Range, and there is no end to watershed groups and watershed collaborations and groups working on this topic. So, our staff is pretty involved in a lot of collaborations to the best of our ability, but you can get lost in the tangle of who's doing what and who's actually accomplishing anything. So I guess it's always good to know who's in your area working on what, but kind of maintaining your focus on what you're trying to accomplish. And happy to chat more outside of this meeting about watershed groups.
Yeah. Anyone else have any other questions, comments, anything? Well, I hope that you guys learned something. And like I said, I'll put my phone number and my email in the chat. But please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And like I said, I've been involved in a few incidents. I am working on, I've taken my basic PIO and my, I'm working on getting my JIC 291 and then all of that. And so I'm pretty involved in the PIO aspect of it all too. So I'm happy to discuss that. I know within my county, we have a PIO group of like all the different PIOs in the county that are ready and able to act when an incident occurs. And so whether it's involving what you do as a job or not, again, having people there that kind of know how to do press releases and be able to work with the public and get public information out there is crucial. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm happy to chat more about what that might look like for you. So please reach out. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Caitlin. That was absolutely fabulous. I mean, the way conservation districts can like really work in this kind of niche and in response with emergency support, recovery support, public information. I mean, it's just amazing. And so definitely reach out to Caitlin if you have any questions, and we'll be sure to send out that presentation as well, so you have access to those links. But if there aren't any other questions, we will go ahead and wrap things up. So thank you again, Caitlin, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.